Every time you ask an artificial intelligence a question, every time you generate an image, and every time a massive language model is trained, something physical happens that the tech giants don't want you to visualize. We have been sold a lie that the digital world lives in a weightless, invisible place called the cloud. We are told that the cloud is clean, efficient, and environmentally friendly. But as we move into 2026, the residents of Florida are beginning to discover the brutal reality. The cloud is not a cloud at all. The cloud is a massive, windowless concrete warehouse filled with thousands of scorching hot servers that require an astronomical amount of resources to keep from melting down. This is the beginning of the AI water grab, and it is the most significant and invisible threat to Florida real estate that we have ever documented on this channel. While you are being told by city officials to shorten your showers, to stop watering your lawn, and to install low-flow toilets to save the dying Florida Aquifer, a new neighbor has moved in next door. This neighbor does not pay attention to water restrictions. This neighbor consumes more fresh water in a single day than an entire suburban neighborhood does in a month. Florida has quietly become the fourth largest hub for data centers in the United States, serving as the digital gateway to the southeastern region and Latin America. But there is a fundamental conflict that nobody is talking about. The big tech companies are choosing to build these massive data centers in the exact same state where the drinking water supply is reaching a breaking point. To understand why this is happening, you have to understand how a data center works. These buildings house thousands of computer chips working at maximum capacity, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This process generates a level of heat that would destroy the equipment in minutes if it weren't constantly cooled. The cheapest and most effective way to cool these machines is through a process called evaporative cooling. In simple terms, these data centers suck in millions of gallons of fresh water from the local municipal supply, spray it onto cooling pads, and let it evaporate to carry the heat away. The water that evaporates is gone. It does not go back into the drain. It does not return to the aquifer. It is literally pulled out of the Florida water table and released into the atmosphere as steam so that someone in another part of the world can generate a cat video or a line of code. As we move deeper into 2026, the scale of this consumption is becoming impossible to hide. A single large-scale data center can consume between 1 million and 5 million gallons of water every single day. For perspective, the average Florida household uses about 80 gallons of water per day. This means that one single AI data center consumes as much water as 30,000 to 60,000 homes. When you see a new data center project being approved in Miami-Dade, Broward, or Orange County, you are looking at the equivalent of a whole new city being added to the water grid, but without the tax base of 30,000 families to support the infrastructure. This is a direct competition for a vanishing resource. It is your morning coffee, your children's bathwater, and your garden's survival versus the cooling needs of a server farm. The alert we are sounding today is that this is not a future problem. It is happening right now. The infrastructure that was designed to support Florida's growing population is being hijacked by the artificial intelligence boom. City councils are approving these projects because they promise high-tech jobs and modern prestige, but they are failing to account for the long-term cost to the homeowner. Every gallon of water that a data center pulls from the aquifer is a gallon that cannot be used to push back against the saltwater intrusion we discussed in our previous investigation. We are witnessing an engineering disaster where the state is inviting the very industry that will accelerate the death of its freshwater supply. In the next few minutes, we are going to look at the terrifying numbers behind this consumption and why your property value is now directly tied to the cooling bill of big tech. To truly understand the gravity of what is happening right now in 2026, we have to look at the numbers that tech companies try to bury in the back pages of their sustainability reports. The comment we received from our follower, Boudica234, was absolutely correct. Florida is not just attracting people, it is attracting data centers at an unprecedented scale. Currently, there are massive projects coming online in places like Hillsborough, Miami, and the Interstate 4 corridor. But what most residents fail to realize is the physical water cost of a single AI prompt or a large language model training session. Recent data indicates that for every 20 to 50 questions you ask an artificial intelligence, the system effectively drinks approximately 500 milliliters of fresh water for cooling purposes. This might seem like a small amount on an individual scale, But when you multiply that by the billions of daily interactions processed on Florida soil, the volume becomes catastrophic. An average-sized data center consumes between 300 million and 800 million gallons of water every single. While just a few miles away, millions of gallons of fresh water are being sprayed into cooling towers to ensure that a server farm for a company in Menlo Park or Seattle does not overheat. The impact on real estate is a ticking time bomb. Artificial intelligence is quite literally consuming the liquidity of your property. Without water, there is no life, and without life, there is no real estate market. As the aquifer levels drop due to excessive extraction by data centers, the freshwater pressure decreases, allowing salt water from the ocean to push miles inland beneath the foundations of your homes. It is a cruel irony. The state is incentivizing the technology of the future to boost the economy, but that very technology is destroying the basic resource that makes Florida's land habitable in the first place. Furthermore, we have to address thermal waste. The water used in these data centers is often discharged at a much higher temperature than when it was extracted. This can cause irreparable damage to local ecosystems or is simply lost to the atmosphere through evaporation. There is no real recycling here. It is pure extraction. When you look at the new housing developments being built in Orlando or Tampa, you have to ask yourself, where will the water for these 5,000 new homes come from if the big tech data center next door has already reserved 60% of the local aquifer capacity for the next decade? In 2026, the answer is becoming clear. There is not enough water for everyone, and the homeowner is the first one who will be cut off. As we move into the second half of 2026, we need to address the sophisticated marketing used by these tech giants to justify their presence in Florida. You have likely seen the press releases. They claim to be water positive or carbon neutral by 2030. But if you look closely at the fine print of these corporate sustainability reports, a much darker picture emerges. This is the third domino in the AI water grab, the sustainability fraud. When a data center claims to be water positive, it does not mean they aren't taking water from the Florida aquifer. What it usually means is that they are buying water credits or funding restoration projects in other states or even other countries to offset the millions of gallons they are physically extracting from your backyard. For a homeowner in West Palm Beach or Orlando, a water restoration project in a different watershed does nothing to stop your local tap water from turning salty or your utility rates from skyrocketing. The tech companies are using a shell game of accounting to hide the fact that they are a massive drain on local resources. They are effectively exporting Florida's fresh water in the form of digital services, leaving the local taxpayer to deal with the environmental consequences. This is not sustainability. It is resource extraction disguised as innovation. But the drain on the aquifer is only half of the story. These massive server farms are also the single largest pressure point on the Florida electrical grid. In 2025 and early 2026, the demand for power to run AI training models reached an all-time high. A single data center complex can consume as much electricity as 100,000 homes. This massive surge in demand forces Florida power companies to keep older, less efficient fossil fuel plants running and to invest billions in new transmission lines. And here is the catch for the property owner. Who do you think pays for that new infrastructure? It is not the multi-billion-dollar tech company that received a 10-year tax abatement to build the data center. It is you. Your monthly utility bill is increasing not just because of inflation, but because you are subsidizing the massive electrical and water infrastructure required to keep the AI revolution cool. We are seeing grid-driven inflation in Florida, housing costs that is directly tied to the expansion of these data centers. When you combine rising water rates with surging electricity costs, the carrying cost of owning a home in Florida becomes a secondary mortgage. The reality of 2026 is that the presence of a data center in your county is no longer a sign of economic progress. It is a warning sign of future cost increases. These facilities create very few long-term jobs once construction is finished, usually just a few dozen security guards and technicians, but they leave a permanent scar on the local resource map. As a homeowner, you are in a silent war for the very basic necessities of your property's survival. And right now, the algorithms are winning. As the freshwater in the aquifers continues to dwindle and the competition with AI data centers intensifies, Florida is approaching a desperate crossroads. In 2026, the The state government is beginning to realize that conservation alone cannot solve this crisis. The only engineering solution left on the table is large-scale desalination, the process of turning ocean water into drinking water. But here is the critical piece of housing intelligence that your real estate agent will never tell you. Desalination is one of the most expensive and energy-intensive industrial processes in existence. The cost to build and operate a massive desalination plant is astronomical. We are talking about billions of dollars in capital expenditure. And the question that should haunt every homeowner in Florida is simple. Who is going to pay for it? It certainly won't be the big tech corporations. They have already negotiated their long-term utility rates and secured their tax incentives. The burden of this desalination tax will fall directly on the property owner. In 2026, we are seeing the first proposals for infrastructure surcharges on monthly water bills that could double or even triple the cost of basic utilities for a standard 3-bedroom home. This is where the AI water grab hits your property value. Real estate is valued based on the cost of ownership. When the combined cost of insurance, property taxes, and now water surcharges exceeds a certain threshold, the pool of potential buyers shrinks. For a retiree on a fixed income, an extra $300 a month for water is a catastrophic blow. It forces them to sell. When thousands of people are forced to sell for the same reason at the same time, the market reaches a tipping point. We are witnessing the birth of a new economic reality where a home's value is no longer determined by its proximity to the beach, but by its proximity to affordable, sustainable water infrastructure. Furthermore, desalination plants create their own environmental domino effect. The highly concentrated brine that is pumped back into the ocean creates dead zones along the coast, potentially destroying the very beaches that make Florida real estate desirable in the first place. This is a closed loop of destruction. We use massive amounts of energy to create water so that AI can stay cool, which in turn destroys the coastline and raises the cost of living until the average family can no longer afford to stay. In 2026, the smart money is no longer looking at the growth charts of Florida's tech hubs. They are looking at the water tables. They are realizing that the high-tech Florida dream is being built on a foundation of liquid sand. If you are holding property in an area that is becoming a hub for AI infrastructure, you need to understand that you are not benefiting from the tech boom. You are being cannibalized by it. Your home is the battery that is being drained to power the cloud. We are now entering the final and most volatile stage of the AI water grab, the era of social and legal conflict. In 2026, the tension between local communities and the tech giants is no longer a fringe issue. It has moved to the center of town hall meetings across the state of Florida. Residents are waking up to the reality that their primary residence, their greatest store of wealth, is being treated as a secondary priority to the cooling needs of a machine. This is the birth of the next great American conflict, the battle for resource sovereignty. The final thesis we must confront is a difficult one. We are currently trading our long-term water security for short-term technological progress. This is a massive, unpriced risk in the Florida housing market. If the AI data centers continue to expand at their current rate, we will see a managed retreat, not just from the rising sea, but from the rising costs of basic survival. In the next 5 to 10 years, the value of your house will depend entirely on the viability of your tap. If the big tech companies own the water rights through their infrastructure contracts, your property becomes a stranded asset. You cannot sell a house in a desert, even if that desert is located in a tropical paradise. The housing intel for 2026 is clear. You must look past the shiny brochures of new tech-driven growth. Before you buy, and before you decide to stay, you must ask the hard questions. Where does the water for this county come from? How many data center permits have been approved in a 10-mile radius? What are the projected utility surcharges for the next 5 years? If the local government is prioritizing the cloud over the citizens, you are not in a growth market. You are in an extraction zone. This is the hidden war for Florida's future. The AI revolution is here, and it is thirsty. It is a physical force that is hollowing out the land and the liquidity of the families who live there. We are not telling you this to make you panic. We are telling you this so you can make informed, data-driven decisions before the market fully realizes what we have exposed today. Knowledge is the only asset that doesn't require cooling or a massive electrical grid. Thank you for trusting Housing Intel with your time. We are committed to tracking the invisible forces that move the real estate market, from the depths of the aquifer to the heights of the digital cloud. If this investigation opened your eyes to the true cost of the AI boom, make sure to like this video and subscribe. Your support allows us to continue this independent research that the industry tries to keep quiet. Share this with anyone you know who owns property in Florida. They deserve to know who is really competing for their water. Leave a comment below. Are you seeing these massive data centers popping up in your neighborhood? Are you noticing your water bills climbing? We read every single one. We will see you in the next breakdown, where we continue to reveal the truth behind the numbers.